Hey everybody, what up? All right, so in 2026, if you're not using some of the AI tools, then you're already behind. And this is not some sort of fear video or anything like that. There's a lot of discussion, it seems like, with some of the old guard or maybe some of the people that really love to learn how to code and all this stuff, not embracing the AI tools that are available. And the problem is if you're doing that, you're already behind. And it's not to say that you're screwed, because if you know the AI naysayers and things like that, you always have time to change your direction. Now, if you go back to what I've always talked about with these tools, and this you could go back years actually, ChatGPT, 2023, and anyway, it goes way back with my channel. But what I said back in 2023 were that these were tools that we were going to use to be able to build things faster and build more complicated things. And I think the jury is still out on expanding our horizons and developing new technologies from this stuff. But the fact of the matter is, if you're working on web-based CRUD applications and you're not using these AI tools, then you're definitely behind. All right, so just as an example of what you should be doing out of the gate is that you need to have some sort of AI agent in your editor. So if you're not using something like Claude Code or Cursor, and I get it, Cursor is expensive. They keep raising their prices, just like I mentioned a few months back. I don't actually use Cursor anymore. I actually use Claude Code. So using Visual Studio Code, it's free. I'm used to the UI and everything. I do like Cursor. I actually use Cursor as well, but just for my own personal stuff, I use Visual Studio. And I just have Claude, in there. So now they've actually changed their UI now. So you used to have to type Claude in like the terminal, but now you have Claude Code that's actually in. This is actually an update I just saw tonight because I guess I didn't update Visual Studio Code, but they're trying to make this look very much like Cursor. So you can see Claude Code is here. It's like $20 a month. They give you quite a bit of resources. Unfortunately for people overseas and things like that, you're going to have to kind of pony up and pay this stuff. I'm not saying you have to pay $200 a month for Cursor, but you need at least a $20 account, probably with at least Claude. Now, there's also the fact that, like, in this day and age, nobody should be married to just one single AI tool. So for all the people that were vibe coding with Cursor, they ran into the situation where they realized, like, Cursor is a middleman, and you also don't have a ton of control over how many requests that thing is making behind the scenes. But the bottom line is that Cursor is a middleman, and people discovered, hey, I don't need Cursor. I could just simply have Claude Code CLI integrated right into my own environment IDE that I'm not even paying for. So that's sort of where, like, I guess the discussion has gone. But now it's not just simply like Claude Code. Like, you have Gemini CLI, you have a CLI from OpenAI. And then those AI tools should also be using CLIs from like things like GitHub and other products that have command line interfaces. And that saves you a lot of resources and tokens across the wire, because one of the names of the game these days is that you have to spread your tools apart. You should not be married to one single tool. You should be using a whole bunch of different tools. So for instance, there's times that I'll bounce ideas off of like ChatGPT, send it to Claude, tell Claude, this is what ChatGPT said, send it over to Gemini to actually review it. Like, I know it's exhausting, but it's, again, these are tools at our disposal. And if you use them correctly, it does increase your productivity, I would say by like times 10. And then it absolutely makes things that are not possible. So if you know what you're doing and you know how to use these tools, you can build very, very complicated projects that you would not be able to do as an individual developer just a couple years ago. So that is the magic of these tools. And for all the people that are trying to act like they wish they could go back to the old days of having a semicolon or something like that missing, I think you're missing the larger point, is that there was a lot of headache, and like even things like running the browser and having to test in all the different browsers and things like that. Like, you'd much rather have an AI tool do that, and those tools already exist, and there's a lot of people that simply don't use them. So that theoretically frees you up to be able to do other more interesting things. So the scary part is that nobody knows what the future holds in regards to all this. Like, I've always said that they're tools The smartest people will win, the most creative people. I do think that that's still the case. But the way things are right now is that we need a whole lot less programmers to do the status quo. So one theory is that, like, if we're all using these tools and we become super efficient, we're going to be able to write more code because code has become cheaper. It's like a commodity, I guess is the word. But it's like it's cheaper. And if it's cheaper to write code, then you should have more code. And if there's more code, then maybe there's more opportunity, right? But if the AI keeps getting good to the point where, like, you don't need to write a bunch of code anymore, you're more of an architect, you're more of like essentially a middleman to a bunch of different agents to create things and to monitor systems, we could be headed in that direction type of thing. And hopefully not like Homer Simpson from the Simpsons show where like he just like sleeps at his desk and has to press one button if things go off the rails. I do see actually a future where that could be possible, where like our jobs are literally to monitor a bunch of different AI systems for when they go off the rails or they're taking too long on a particular process, to like hit that red button to stop, to reevaluate, because these tools are costing us money. So as they're spinning and working and sending out requests and tokens and all that, it's all costing money, and it's going to cost more and more money as we go along because they're going to get more sophisticated. Maybe there'll be improvements in regards to like inference, and there already is when it comes to actually asking the chatbot questions. What I mean by that is, like, for the majority of the money spent in AI, it's all in like data centers and training the models. It's not an inference. It's not actually like using those particular models. However, the race is so strong that you're always having to like build new data centers and buy these new GPUs and train these new models in order to like keep up. So I don't see like inference being like the thing that we can point to and be like, oh, see, it's cheap or something. It's not going to be cheap until either this bubble pops, which may never, or like somebody wins, which they probably won't. So we're just like we're going at light speed here. So going back to these tools, you're not just simply supposed to be using just like, okay, I have a Gemini account and an OpenAI account and I have Cloud Code and I'm bouncing all those ideas off of each other. Yes, you should be doing that. But it's also, there's certain, I think, things that are much better. Like, for instance, OpenAI's latest ChatGPT is way better at math problems than Gemini, and certainly better than Anthropic. So I find that Claude and Anthropic struggles mightily when it comes to like math problems. So understanding which models perform the best is also a skill so you're not wasting a bunch of Claude Anthropic resources, which should be more about like true code, architectural, decision making, refactoring, things like that, and bouncing those ideas off of ChatGPT or some other model that is like a lesser model provided by Anthropic. An even bigger thing that everybody should be doing is this thing called Model Context Protocol, which was created by the people over at Anthropic. But essentially, you can see from this design, I'm not going to go into it. You should read all about this, because if you don't know what an MCP server is, again, you're already behind. So we've talked, basically, one could also say that MCPs are behind, but I'm not going to have that discussion. That's a different video, and I don't think that that's the case. But anyway, different video, different discussion. But these MCP servers, you should definitely have them. So as an example, you can see that it's basically the middleman between like this, in this case, Cloud Desktop or Cloud Code, which could be inside Visual Studio. And you're communicating with the MCP server, and that MCP server is trained to do certain things. So you have MCP servers that are built for Figma. So these things know how to actually like go into Figma. You authenticate, you set up your credentials, and you ask a question to the chatbot, and all of a sudden it has the ability to go into all the different Figmas that are available. So in many cases, you're like working on a ticket off of a Figma. And this is just one small example that you don't have to like tell it to log in. You don't have to do nothing. You could just simply say, like, you hook up an MCP server for something like Jira, and then the Jira ticket has a link to Figma in it. and maybe, obviously it has access to your code base. And then maybe you have an MCP server for GitHub where all the other repositories may live within, like, for your projects or the company you work for, whatever. And, these MCP servers now, you just simply ask the chatbot a question and it's able to go to Jira, read the ticket. Then it's like, oh, there's a link to Figma, goes into Figma. It looks at screenshots, takes screenshots of the Figma that it's supposed to create. Then it starts running the code on your IDE. It starts pounding out all the requirements for the ticket. Then you have something like an MCP server for Chrome DevTools. So it's then firing up your server, your application, and it's running that local host. It's taking screenshots of your local host. It's actually comparing that to the Figma, and it's making tweaks, and it's able to then read also like console errors and stuff. So it's no more like copying and pasting console errors from your localhost application to the chatbot. If you're doing that, you're wasting your time, because the MCPs could certainly save you a lot of time with those types of things. So it gets pretty scary, because as an example, the example I just provided you, that was a real world thing that I did a couple months back, but I literally gave it a link to a Jira, and it wasn't the most complicated of work, but it was much more complicated than a like typical beginner or even a moderate programmer. If you were like introduced to a new code base, like, so the AI didn't need like this whole training and onboarding of how this application works. Like, it was able to read the code and understand what was going on. But the bottom line is that it looked through the ticket. It did everything that I just described. And it even created like screenshots and commit messages and things so it basically did the whole story. And, people have been talking about this for a while. Like companies are doing this already, like, Meta and Microsoft, they have these tools all set up and everything. And the companies that aren't doing that, they're in big trouble. So, again, I wish I had the answers on where all this is going to lead, but a good friend of mine works for Walmart, and he's in like their DevOps, and he was basically saying that like, these powers are making senior engineers like gods, basically. Like, for him being in DevOps, like he's very good with like, Azure-based systems and AWS. And by the way, there's MCPs for those too. And he was basically talking about, they had some like dead code and some object storages and things like, just millions of objects that they were like storing, and nobody knew what they were, why they were there, like how important they were. And that's a common thing in IT, honestly. There's tons of legacy code. There's things you definitely don't want to touch, because you write, you change one line and all of a sudden 64 tests are breaking, or you find out a month down the road there's some sort of production outage. Like, people don't want to touch the legacy code, but these tools actually make that a very real possibility. But the bottom line is, he was like talking about, he kind of went into this tirade, but like, he used like Kubernetes and all this stuff, spun up all this stuff, and like what would have taken him months to do, and he's got like 25 years of experience. The AI did it in like a matter of minutes, and that's where things I think get a little crazy, because he's of the opinion, and I guess you may have maybe heard it somewhere, but like, we're probably not far away from seeing a company that becomes like a first, unicorn $1 billion startup company that is like literally one employee. We're probably not far from seeing something like that happen. So you kind of want to be in that category of a person that can make things happen. And you don't want to be like, oh, I don't want to use these AI tools because we're making the AI tools better and we're not going to have a job and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, dude, if you're doing CRUD applications and like you've made all your money the last 10 years, like writing React components, dude, you're probably screwed. You got to like expand, because we're headed into a world where project managers, QA, UX designers, business analysts, and software engineers, and also software architects, they're all going to kind of be combined into one. And the question's going to be, who is that going to be? I don't necessarily think it's like, oh, all UX people are screwed, or all project managers are going to be out of a job because programmers are more logical. it's going to be a combination of all of them. If anything, the project managers that understand the business very well, they're going to be dangerous because they know what they're trying to do, what the business wants to do. And there's always this huge disconnect between what the business wants to do and what the programmers are trying to create. And if the project managers are able to use AI tools to create exactly what the business needs, then they probably have the advantage over anybody. However, these AI tools are not perfect, and I think they're still far away from being perfect. And even if they were perfect, there's going to be much more efficient ways of being able to use them that I think a logical-minded software engineer, typical developer type should be able to thrive in that sort of environment. But basically, the roles are being blurred, and you want to be that person that is able to basically be able to compete. And I think to compete in this world right now, all the software engineers need to be using these tools to the utmost ability. And then probably you're going to want to find businesses that you're interested in. I think, and again, this is not fear mongering, but I think we have major problems when it comes to the job market for pretty much every profession. Because again, I go back on the record for this for a long time. If programmers are screwed, so is pretty much everybody else, because the tools that, like, there's tons of business out there and they need these agentic tools, and they need developers writing upgraded systems and things with these agentic tools, and we can make that a possibility. And eventually, where there's a real problem, right, is that when programmers come into like sort of a antiquated type of company, whether it's like insurance or banking or something like that, and they're able to basically do upgrade systems that basically replace hundreds of different jobs within the company. That's like already happening. It's a very real possibility. It's something that like the president of the United States, probably even like the Fed Treasury, probably most people, I would say, even in society, don't really understand that there is a major like shitstorm on the horizon of where, like, if you're an accounting, paralegal, even a lawyer to some degree, they have a moat with their education. Like, if you have an educational moat, that's great. But like, there's a lot of jobs out there that are going to be automated away before software engineers. And we're already seeing that. So that's where we're at. So the bottom line, use these tools, learn, don't become complacent. Don't be a complainer about the old days, because the old days are gone. They're not coming back. So be creative, build crazy shit. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.